And we'll pivot to the second presentation, which is an update to our community on the bond, our bond project that we're so proud of and that we're so pleased with the progress that we've made. So, of course, our board recalls and members of our community will recall that in February of 2024, our community overwhelmingly approved two bond propositions, Prop 1 and Prop 2, and these were approved by, as far as I can recall, the largest margin of approval in the history of our district. So I wanted to take this opportunity to give our community, our board obviously is being kept apprised, and we have our facilities projects committee, but I wanted to apprise our community of where we are in the process. When we first approved the bond project, we talked about an 11-month period of design. And so we've been working on the turf field, the athletic complex, because it's so much more than a turf field. We've been working on the additions to Brookside and Mohansick, and I'll just take you through some of the slides to just give you an update as to where we are. So just to recap, these are the elements on this slide and on the next slide of the bond. So there's ultimately 6 classrooms at Brookside, 6 classrooms at Mohansick, 6 classrooms at Crampon. When we say at Mohansick and Crampon 2-story 6-classroom addition, it's not 2 stories with 6 classrooms each. The total number of classrooms being added are 6. So there are 3 on the first story, 3 on the second story. Our middle school is receiving a much needed renovation. Many of the fixtures and the millwork are original, and it shows every bit of its age. Yorktown High School is getting some updates, music, art, robotics. Our athletic complex is going to be absolutely gorgeous. And then the backup generator for critical infrastructure on the high school campus. It's not going to power the buildings. If there is a power outage, there still is a likelihood that we're going to have to close schools because there are certain systems that no generator the size of our buildings can operate, certainly not within the costs that we have. So the timeline is here. It's really difficult to read. We'll post this to our website where you can zoom in and get the timeline. Where we are is we're at the tail end of that first block of time. So much of this is planning, and you'll see Brookside, Mohansick, Athletic Complex are those top 3 items. So that is a rendering of the facility, the athletic complex. And what I'll do is just share the field that is not highlighted in that bright green. That's the existing turf field. That's Charlie Murphy Field. To the right, we're putting in a baseball, the right, and then south. So that's a baseball / field hockey field. We can play soccer on there as well. And that will be synthetic turf with a removable wall. There's all kinds of drainage work that has to go in. That's where we've spent a lot of our time, is looking at the drainage work to make sure that we measure twice, cut once in terms of getting this project right. Again, similar to Charlie Murphy Field, we're going to use a great synthetic turf. The infill will be a virgin rubber infill, not the crumb rubber infill. Passes the same, the infill that we're using now passes the same safety standards that are applied to children's toys. And then north of that baseball field hockey field will be another multi-purpose field that can be used for football, lacrosse, soccer, and that will have bleachers and that will be lit. The baseball field will not be lit. To the right of the multi-purpose field will be pickleball / basketball courts. And to the left of the field will be a field house where we'll have concessions and finally outdoor bathrooms. We are looking at a grade change from where the patio is for the field house to where Charlie Murphy Turf Field is. So we're looking at creating a terrace environment so that it's an elevated view from the field house onto Charlie Murphy Field. So all exciting, lots of planning work happening. Right now, our planning is literally underground, looking at the drainage systems, looking at the sewer pipes of the town, looking at, because there are wetlands around the property. So we have to get all kinds of approvals before we can proceed with this project. So there are bioretention ponds that are built into this project and so much planning to divert water safely. As we just transition to Brookside, the picture on the left is an existing aerial shot of Brookside. On the right, you'll see the proposed additions with the site work. We'll zoom in on that, and you can see there's a classroom on the left, which is by the kindergarten wing, and on the right, which is by the ball fields. And those are 3 classroom additions. Four on by the ball fields and 2 by the kindergarten wing. Some renderings that our architects have provided. And again, the colors, some of the fixtures, all subject to change. We're still working through the finishes on the classroom additions. But from a design standpoint, we're in a pretty good place. We've consulted teachers. We've brought teachers, administrators into the process. Their voice has been heard. Much of what you're seeing here has come from our conversations and meetings with the faculty and staff, and we appreciate them taking the time to be present at these meetings. That's another example, just another view of a classroom, a view of a 3rd grade classroom, bright, lots of natural light, LED lighting. So we are looking at some energy efficiencies in our design. Another just view of a 3rd grade classroom, flexible type of furniture, modular type of furniture that can be easily moved and configured. And then we get into Mohansic. Same thing. Left is the existing floor plan. Right is the proposed site work, which would take place on the rear of Mohansic. So it will encroach a bit on the playground, that we're aware of. And we're looking at ways to reconfigure the playground, whether we're going more left and right to get some more real estate left and right. But certainly the addition does encroach a bit on the playground. With regard to the addition, again, it's 2 stories. So story 1, story 2, 3 classroom additions. And again, many of the pictures look similar. Colors, finishes, those are still being finalized. But for the most part, these new spaces are, number one, a little bit larger. They come with a little bit more storage space, great sight lines. So as students are in the cubbies, putting their materials down, teacher has great sight lines into that cubby area. And that is where we are so far. We meet every 2 weeks. The Facilities Project Committee meets every 2 weeks. Our next meeting is tomorrow. We met 2 weeks ago on Tuesday, so we'll meet again tomorrow. Jackie Carbone chairs that committee. And Jackie, if there's anything that you want to add about the planning, you've been integral in all of the work that's happening.
No, we're just, we're moving along. I know we're kind of close to schedule. The fields are the biggest issue because they have so many different levels of oversight that they need. It's not just SED, it's DEP, it's DEC, any acronym you can come up with has to say okay to us, and it's a lot. There's a lot of water that we're having to try to figure out how to move around. Plus, we have discovered pipes that are collapsing under where we want to put the new turf field, and that's creating an issue of how we can replace those because we found that they're only about 12 inches from the top of the dirt, and that's not really conducive to putting in a new turf. So we're trying to work through all of that. It's expensive and it's time consuming, and that's where we're stuck right now. But we'll get there. We just have to do it in the most efficient way possible. Did I miss anything? All right.
Well, that was all I had with regard to an update on where we are with the projects. Just wanted to make sure we touched base with the community. It's been about 10 months since they gave us their approval, and I thought it was appropriate given where we are and with submissions going to SED and some submissions already at SED for their review, just to give the community an update. And we'll come back in another couple months or another few months, and we'll give another update as to where we are in the process.